Hello, everybody. Happy Thursday. Hello, Michael, Bill, Carl, Jen, Sean, Chris. Chris and Jen just got to spend some time with you, which was awesome. Hello, Elaine. Hello, Chris Minelli. All right, seeing lots of familiar faces on here. Mr. Suhan, Miss Rachel. Howdy, howdy. Hello, Julie. All right. Thank you guys for being right on time. Hello, Mr. Keffer. Chris, are those your actual belts behind you up on the wall? Like the actual ones that you wore?
Excuse me. They are. That's my first ones from 6 years old.
I love it. I still have mine too. I still have mine too. They're up in the office, but not where people can see them. So I love that you still have that. The only thing I can't find is my original BJJ white belt. Got all the other BJJ belts. Sweeney, do you still have your BJJ original white belt? Yeah, right. It's like once you get the blue belt, it's like screw this thing. I never want to see it again. Okay. All right, guys. Very excited for today's session on the AI operating system. And I know we've got lots of different levels in here, kind of similar to levels in martial arts. There are levels in tech savviness and AI usage. And I'm excited to kind of unpack what I believe as martial arts school owners you should be focusing on implementing when it comes to AI automations, tech, things like that. Um, so I've got a fun session lined up. In the chat, let's do this. Scale of like 1 to 5. One, you're a white belt in AI. 5, you are a black belt in AI. Where are you at? 1 to 5. 1, you're a white belt. 5, you are a black belt. All right, got some ones. 3.5. I like it. Matthew Leping, a 4. Very cool. All right. Kind of what I figured for research 4 in biz 1. Yeah, kind of, difference between like staying up to date with it, reading about it, watching videos, and then actually like implementation inside of our business, right? Two completely separate things. So that's kind of what we're going to be talking about today is out of all of these things, in order to ultimately help you buy back your time in your school. These are the ones that I would consider implementing. We are not going on some, deep dive into all of the different, softwares and LLMs and things like that, right? Whether you use ChatGPT or you use Claude or you use Gemini, all of them can do what we are going to be going over. All right. So, let's go ahead and get this party started. If you have the ability to turn your camera on, would love to see your beautiful faces. I do equate if you have your camera off to you being on the mat in my jujitsu class with a box over your head. That's literally what I think about. So would love to see your faces. It's just more fun that way. All right. If you don't have clothes on, please keep the camera off. Okay. So we've got quite a few ones, twos, threes, a handful of 4 to 5. Fair enough, Miss Rachel. When you're done smashing that lunch, go ahead and turn the cameras back on. Um, can you just let me know in the chat, how are you currently using AI? And maybe it's like, hey, just kind of super basic. I'm using ChatGPT to help me solve problems or help me write emails or help me write content. Or, maybe you've taken a little bit further and you've built, AI chatbots or you've built internal apps or things like that. Maybe you started diving into a little bit of vibe coding and you're staying up till the wee hours of the night. Just kind of let me know really what you are mainly utilizing it for. All right, content creation. Coding a CRM to run my martial arts school. That's a very, very big project. Chat GPT, basic writing, document editing, thought partner. Yes, I love it as a thought partner as well. Generating social media. Very good. Go, Mr. Hayden. Nice to see you on here. I know you've been having some super late nights. Um, GPT for operations management, marketing ideas. Okay. So kind of seeing, a lot of green tails here, a lot around content, emails, writing, and social media, producing social media posts. Awesome. Responding to text to be politely correct. Yes. I will admit I prompt my AI more often than I am happy to say, and just I basically say make this sound nice, and it does exactly that. But I want to kind of dive into a little bit, kind of past the basic stuff, what we can be doing. All right, so let me go ahead, share the screen. Let's dive in. As always, thank you guys for showing up, being here with me, investing our most precious thing that we have, which is your time. And man, we still got people popping in. So let me just get everybody in here. Okay, very cool. Mr. Sweeney, can you see my screen? Thumbs up. We're good. Beautiful. Awesome. All right. So, I think for the most part, when I think back to why I opened, my school, Gracie Pack, a lot of it was around sharing the, thing that had the most profound, difference in my life. And I think that all of us would agree that's one of the main reasons why you opened up your martial arts school as well, right? To change lives, to make a bigger impact. And I want you to just think, how many hours a week do you think you or your team is spending doing administration work, like lead follow up, pulling reports, correspondence? Guesstimate, go with your gut here. And, maybe it's you doing it some of the time and maybe it's your team doing it the others. But how many hours would you just guesstimate you are spending doing admin work? All right, not enough. Appreciate the honesty. 75%, another not enough. 30 hours a week. Yeah, it's like either we know we need to be doing it more, and we just don't have the bandwidth or the capacity, or we are spending the majority of our time doing it. And I just think it's really interesting that we got into this to change lives, we got into this to make an impact, but we're spending the majority of our hours doing things that AI and automations can now do for us. And that's really how I want you to look at this, is how can you implement some of this stuff just to buy back your time so you can be in your zone of genius, whatever that is, whether that's teaching on the mat, whether that's working the lobby, whether that's, hanging out at home, and not even being in the school. All right. So mission is just to open your mind to what's possible with having an actual AI operating system. And I'm going to give you a checklist of items to consider, like as a starting point of what you can put into your school to help you buy back that time. So we're going to start with just some basic AI use cases, because I know some of you said you're white belts. So I want to make sure that maybe we can at least earn a stripe on our belt today. We'll talk about what an AI operating system does, which it's basically a place where all of the systems connect that helps to operate the school in the background. I'm going to go through the systems checklist, and then I want to talk about getting team buy-in, because I hear just from a lot of schools that they're maybe hesitant in teaching their team how to use it or how their team is going to feel about it. And then we'll talk about the compounding advantage. And if you like, what I'm putting down and you want this handled by somebody else, this is a direction that we are moving into at GrowPro. So cameras on if you can, take notes, ask questions, participate, please. If you have not seen my rant from, what was it, a couple of days ago in the martial arts entrepreneurs group, go check that bad boy out. Okay. All right. So for those of you that might not, have been in our GoPro ecosystem, lifelong martial artist, started in Taekwondo at a junior institute of Taekwondo, where my instructor started learning Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. Hated Brazilian Jiu Jitsu at first because I was no good at it. And then I started getting good. So fell in love with it. Ended up opening a school in 2012 in Tampa. And in 2019, I was brought on to the Maya team, the Martial Arts Industry Association. Sidebar, there is going to be a martial arts super show this year. It will not be in person, it will be done virtually. But if you've never been able to participate, or you've gone in the past, it is happening in July. So keep your eyes and ears peeled out for that. And then also in 2019, I launched Grow Pro Agency, which is a digital marketing agency that specifically works with martial arts and now dance studios. And it kind of got to the size that required my full attention. So I exited Gracie Pack, sold it to a UFC fighter, Billy Q, where it is now thriving under his ownership. So that I can fully go all in on making sure that we are providing exactly what this industry needs help with, so that you ultimately have freedom in your school to do whatever it is you love, right? It's different for everybody. So just a little bit about me. Just curious, I'm going to ask one at a time and just let me know yes or no in the chat. How many of you have seen an increase in the difficulty of getting in contact with leads lately? So just yes or no, like yes, it's just been harder to make connections. No, not having a problem at all. Cool. All right. That's kind of what I figured. Um, why do you guys think that is? Anybody want to unmute on why you think it's harder today than it was a few years ago to make connections with people that are opting in? You can you put it in the chat, or you can just unmute somebody who just
Yeah,
wants to talk to me.
I think it's
Sweet.
totally like a digital age, and the 20s and young 30s are just not wanting a phone call. That's what
Okay.
I've been.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. So we are living in a digital age, which I 100% agree with, and I think everybody else would. And I'll take it a step further. Are we getting more notifications today than we did 5 years from now? I mean, the answer is like yes, right? And because of that, what ends up happening is you can get desensitized to those notifications, right? So that is playing a role. Mr. Steven, I think you had your hand up.
Yeah,
Something you wanted to share,
yeah.
sir?
I've also noticed with a lot of agencies that are automated that they tend to overkill to the point of I literally receive, you know, phone calls that are marked potential spam from the same agency from different numbers half a dozen times a day. And there was one agency I contacted once that basically sent me 2 emails, 6 text messages, and I don't know how many phone calls in a 48-hour period. And I was like, I've got the appointment on my calendar. I know it. Okay, we're good to go. I actually listen, read my calendar, and it's like, and I think people are getting very tired of that as well.
Yeah,
Um,
it reminds me of when I put in a request for a mortgage loan.
oh
Literally, was
God.
receiving, this is not a exaggeration, over 40 calls a day. I closed on that property back in Q3 of last year, and I still get calls today from these companies, right? So absolutely, right? We're just getting blown up so much. Miss Alves, yes, ma'am.
Hey there, Chris.
Hey,
So, I think definitely advertising fatigue is one of them. Facebook, was new a long time ago, and then boom, everybody's there. So there's a lot of fatigue in digital stuff. But I've noticed with parents lately, specifically, that half of them don't even realize that they've opted in. And then when I call them, they're like, who are you? And I'm like, oh, sorry, I only got your information because you came to my website or clicked on the ad. And the other half is split between being so busy that they just don't even have a moment to talk to me. They might be interested, but then they're like, oh, I'm at work. Can I call you? And then it's like, they can't pick up the phone again. And then you text them, and then there's so many follow-ups, until that you can actually get their attention because they're so spread thin, and then there's the 25% of them who are like, all right, I'm ready to buy now. So it's definitely harder.
Yeah, no, great shares there. So it sounds like everybody is experiencing, around the same thing. And again, a lot of this is just we as a society, are leaning more into tech. Like Miss Alves said, Facebook was newer. Now it's not so new. This was a big conversation at the Elevate event last weekend where myself, Stephen Reinstein, and Melody put on a 2-day event in St. Pete just about the difference between running a martial arts school when you had like play-based children growing up, like the majority of us, right? We actually played outside, we rode our bikes, street lights came on and we come back inside, to now we are in a society where these are, device first children. And that's making a big impact. And a big part of the event, specifically on Melody's sessions, was about positioning ourselves for the modern day family and for the modern day child in your messaging, right? So looking at most of us, when we set up automations, you probably set up the automations to be pretty basic and pretty simple. So one of the things I would consider is going through those email and text automations and figuring out how you can shift the marketing message to match more of what is the modern day family. Because the messaging that worked, 5 years ago, 3 years ago, isn't making as much of an impact. The other thing that I will say is, I've spoken about this before. I do think in the future there will be some form of a class action lawsuit against Facebook around their bots. We all know there are bots on the platform. You all have seen bots comment on ads, comment on other people's posts, and those bots do opt in to ads. And, as an agency owner, there are things that we can do, like asking additional qualifying questions, making sure SMS verification is turned on. So for those of you, if you are running your own ads, make sure you're doing that to help with the lead quality. But it's kind of become the cost of doing business and advertising online to just know that there's a percentage of leads you are never going to get a hold of. And you just kind of have to be okay with that. All right. Great conversations, guys. Absolutely love that. Thank you for those of you that are unmuting and jumping in. So, the first question, how many of you seen an increase in difficulty? Everybody said yes. I would probably assume there's also an increase of difficulty getting them to show as well. And there is a 6-step process that we implement at GrowPro for our clients to help improve this, because there are things that you can do in your confirmation sequences to make you really stand out. And the other thing I just want to touch on that I saw in here is the spam. For those of you that are utilizing phone numbers that are purchased through CRMs, it is smart to check in on those numbers every few months and just have that number call a couple of people that and see if it is showing up as spam. Because I bet if you get a phone call that says spam, are you picking it up? Probably not, right? So you want to double check and make sure. This is something that we do for our concierge clients because we're doing so many outbound calls. Is once a quarter, we check to see if the number has been marked as spam and is now showing up. This is carrier related as well. So there's certain carriers that might show up more so than others. Okay. So just kind of want to make sure that we're all on the same page with kind of what everybody is seeing. And, I asked earlier, how much time are you guys spending on admin work? And, there's There's a lot of time that's going to it. Some of you said, well, I'm not spending enough, and it's probably just due to capacity issues. But when you think about the most important work that we do as martial arts business owners and instructors, uh, it's what is happening on the mat. It's the conversations that are happening in the lobby. It's the community that you are building with your events. Brick and mortar martial arts schools, I don't think need to worry as much about AI as, something like a marketing agency or a tech company. What you do need to worry about is the impact that it has on the family's jobs, because if their jobs go away, it's going to be difficult for them to justify, paying your school. But we need to understand that parents aren't just enrolling their kids in martial arts. They're often like pulling them out of isolation and into a community. And you need to protect that mission. And that's very difficult to do when all of the admin work is kind of stealing your attention from the most important things. So that's really why you should consider some of these AI tools that we are going over, just so you can buy back your time and spend the bulk of your time in your highest leveraged activity. So I'm just curious, for you personally, there's no right or wrong answer, because maybe the answer is being on the mat. But if all kind of the admin stuff went away and you could shift your focus to what I would call your zone of genius, the area that you love spending time in your martial arts school, what would that be? And like I said, there's no right or wrong answer. Would it be, man, just developing more relationships with parents in the lobby? Would it be, I'd rather just stay home and sit on my couch? Would it be, I want to be on the floor, right? Maybe it's, I want to eat dinner at a reasonable time, at 6 p.m., right? So whatever that would be, connecting with parents, mat community, fostering relationships, love it. Teaching, very cool. So ultimately, I think that one of the reasons why we started our business is to not just have another job, but there are action steps that you need to take so that you can do the things that you love and that you're great at and that you like and that you are good at. And those are your highest leveraged activities. Okay. So let's just go over some basic AI use cases. More than likely, if you said you're a 1, you're probably utilizing AI for some of this. And the first one is just content writing, right? I think this was like the biggest time saver for most of us when ChatGPT first came out. Whether it was for social posts, whether it was for emails, whether it was for video scripts. But what are we seeing now, right? Would we all agree that probably on a daily basis, as you are scrolling through Facebook, you see a post from somebody and you just immediately think AI slop? You just think like, there's no way I know that person. That's not how they speak. There's way too many M dashes, way too many emojis, right? And it's actually, I think, hurting a lot of people. And you'll even recognize the level of engagement typically isn't there either. So my strong suggestion is, yes, utilize it so that you're not staring at a blank sheet of paper, but you need to make sure that you're putting it in your words. What is ultimately going to happen is, as AI and tech and automations come more and more into our life, what are we going to start craving even more? We're going to start craving real freaking humans. All right. And I do think in some industries, you're going to be willing to pay more to speak to an actual human instead of speaking to the AI. Right. And everything is cyclical, right? We always come back. So because it is now like the bar is so low with writing content, you're just seeing such like not great content out there. And when there is a really great piece of content that is authentic to that person's voice, you're seeing just massive levels of engagement. So yes, you should absolutely be utilizing it to help you cut down, ideating on these things, but it should not be just a copy and paste. And, at the minimum, get rid of the M dashes, right? I think there was maybe 1% of the population that used M dashes prior to ChatGPT. Chris Murphy is part of that 1%. But get rid of them, guys. All right. So this is like kind of the basic stuff, right? The other, thing that I think most people that have gotten into ChatGPT will utilize it for is just analyzing spreadsheets and data. This is one of my favorite hacks. I used to spend so much time looking through spreadsheets, looking through my P&L. Now I'm able to take my P&L, I drop it into ChatGPT, prompt it with a strategy I'm going to give you here, and now I'm getting, really high level analyzation on my P&L, and it's saying like, hey, compared to last quarter, compared to the previous, month, this is what we're seeing. So I also utilize this the first of the month. Every single month is my finance day. I block it off, try not to have any meetings, and it's where I'm going through the previous month and literally going through like all of the bank statements and being able to take a bank statement from the previous month to this month, throw it in there and ask like, hey, what are the discrepancies? Where are the areas that, we are spending more where we shouldn't be? So absolutely love it to be able to analyze spreadsheets and data. All right. And then this is now becoming more and more popular is just image creation. And, Chat GPT, has been able to do this for a while, but it really came on the scene with Mid-Journey. And if you look at the AI pictures from, a few years ago, it's when we all had like 11 fingers and 12 toes. But now it's becoming so real that in some cases, it's very difficult to even tell if that is AI generated or is it a real photo. One of the things that we did at the Elevate conference during Stephen and mine's session is we walked everybody through this software that Stephen has built and we've built internally at GrowPro, where you just upload a picture of your school, right? So Miss Alves probably has one of the most beautiful martial arts schools that I've ever seen. So she could take that picture of that, she could put it into the LLM and then prompt it. And now it can actually generate photos with whatever the words on the walls are, whatever, if you have your student creed, if you use like century punch mitts and those are up on the wall, you can now generate photos where it's going to pull items that are in your school. And now you could have an AI generated image of an instructor holding a century mitt and a child hitting it in your uniform with your logo. I mean, it is that good. So we're starting to see, this as a much better use case than it was a few years ago when all the 11 fingers happened. And now being able to recreate, an exact kind of replica of your school is pretty wild, right? Claude just came out with Claude Design. Canva just released that now you can use Claude AI inside of Canva. And, it's literally like every single day new features are coming out. But, I think for a lot of schools, we know that we need to be putting out content and being able to replicate exactly what your school looks like. And also the instructors. I think Mr. Steve generated a really cool picture at the Elevate event, which was, an AI recreation of him in his school with a student. And it looked, it was very difficult to tell, like, is that real or is it AI? Okay. One of the most popular, image creations that you can use is called Nano Banana. It's through Google, it's through Gemini, and it was really kind of at the top of the game in terms of image generation. But ChatGPT, like Mr. Hayden just said, did a new drop. They were actually very, very quiet about it. When you are in, you need to have the paid version for it. But when you're in there, if you hit the drop down where it says ChatGPT and you go to thinking instead of instant, then you can reap the benefits of their new push out. Okay. What platform? So Nano Banana, Mr. Shaw, is the one. Mid-Journey, you can do it. Chat GPT, you can do it as well. All right. And then finally, and I think a lot of us are still utilizing this, and I utilize this in my personal life, is just brainstorming and problem solving, right? Just asking it for help to solving your biggest problems. But again, while all of this is super cool, right? It's been out for a hot minute and it's getting better and better, especially like the image creation. So what is kind of the next level? And that's really what I want to dive into after I give you the greatest prompting, the greatest prompt that I've ever seen. I've shared this multiple times. It's called the Crit Strategy. It's from a book called AI Leadership. And Phenomenal book. It's a white on the outside. If you have not read it, highly recommend it. But that's where I got it from. And it's called the Crit Strategy. So context, role, interview, and task. I literally in my notes have that written out: context, role, interview, task. So I can just copy and paste it into ChatGPT. So context, you just give it the full picture, right? Everything that it needs to give you the best answer. The role, how do you want it to act? Do you want it to act like a, direct response copywriter? Do you want it to act like a world-class lawyer, HR specialist? And then the I is so important. It's the interview. All right. And that's just where you ask it to ask you questions so that it can give you the best response. That's kind of the, missing puzzle piece that I think a lot of people have. Are missing. And then finally, the task. Tell it exactly what you need. Do you need an email? Do you need a video script? Like, what is it that you need? Okay. So this Crit Strategy, this is something I've been using for almost 2 years now, and I have continued to use it, which is kind of wild because there's so much changing, in the AI world, but this is something that I still use today. All right. Crit, context, role, interview, task. Cool. So most business owners, and it's just not martial arts school, most business owners in general are probably only using 10 to 20% of the power that AI really has, right? And utilizing things like write me a caption or make me a post. And where I think if you implement this checklist I'm going to give you, you can start instead of 80% in the business and 20% on the business, we can flip that around. So 80% is on the business and only 20% is in it. And that's really where I get really just giddy in general about AI, is the buying back your time. So the other thing I think is important to touch on is understanding your own skill set. All right. I've had to remind myself of this often. Every person in this room has different skill sets. Okay. Some of you are great on the phone. Some of you, maybe not. Some of you are phenomenal instructors. Some of you, maybe not. And some of you are incredibly tech savvy. And others on this call would really struggle if I asked you to find the share button on Zoom. It'd be very, very difficult for you. That's just the reality. Some of you are utilizing computers that are like 10 years old and it sounds like a car when you start the computer up, or it just kind of takes forever to load. And I think a lot of school owners are using like outdated technology. And the reality is most school owners can't even keep their Google business profile up to date. But you're going to spend time like vibe coding till the wee hours of the night. So I just think it's important to understand where are your strengths, where are your weaknesses. That doesn't mean you ignore AI, like, oh, I'm not tech savvy, I'm going to ignore it. No, you need to know the basics, right? You need to know the basics, but I have seen, and not just in the martial arts, and I see this in the agency world, and we are tech and software. So many people that, maybe they lean heavier into marketing and sales. Maybe they're more like operational and they're not really tech savvy, wasting so much time, energy, and effort trying to keep up with all of this stuff. And it's like, well, you completely forget the basics of business, that you need to make sales and you need to get results. And if those two things aren't happening, like, why are you staying up until the middle of the night vibe coding? All right. So you got to ask, like, what skills do you have? And earlier this year, OpenClaw came out. Yes or no? Have you heard of the term OpenClaw? Let me know in the chat. Yes or no? Have you heard of the term OpenClaw? All right. Majority no, some yes. Okay. So it was built in January. It actually got purchased by OpenAI. OpenAI owns ChatGPT as well. And I kind of went all in on this. And if you know anything about me, I'm typically in bed at around 8 to 8:30, asleep by 9 p.m. because I wake up at 5 a.m. And I got into, I'm going to call it like a manic state almost, once OpenClaw was introduced to me, because I had just never seen anything like it in terms of it being able to actually do the work, right? So like move the mouse, click on this, click on that, make connections, build AI agents. And it, if it basically can be done on a computer, OpenClaw can do it. And it's very different than just like going to Chat GPT and, you know, typing in something and then getting a response. So I went all in on learning OpenClaw. I joined a mastermind group. I started watching all these videos. I set up an internal group of peers where we would meet every week to just dive into it and learn about it and what are all the cool things that you are doing. I was staying up super, super late, and man, instead of asking people, how are you? I think you should ask them, how did you sleep? Because typically the type of sleep that you get determines how you feel the next day. And I am somebody that classifies myself as, you know, tech savvy. And what I found in this kind of like 6 to 8 week period where I was just going all in on this is I was able to get the AI about 70 to 80% of the way there. And then I would hit a wall and I would get stuck on something and it would literally take hours and hours and hours. And when I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, what is the ROI on this right now? Like, am I adding sales to my business? Am I getting better results for my clients? And it just made me realize that it was important that I understand the basic needs. But if I really wanted to take it to the next level, it's not my zone of genius. There are people that are much better at it. Now, fortunately, for me and my company, I do have the foundational elements of a successful business in place. Like, I'm not doing the sales. I have a sales team. I'm not the one getting my clients results. I have a fulfillment team. But for many people in the business, in the martial arts school, at the end of the day, you are still responsible for sales and results. Like, and that's all you need to be successful in a business. Like, I like hate to like simplify it as much as that, but at the end of the day, that's all you got to do. You got to get customers and you got to get your customers results. And if you don't have somebody else on your team that owns that, then you are the one that owns that. And really going down a lot of these rabbit holes of AI doesn't necessarily end up in more sales and more results. And for a lot of people, it can just turn into, you know, kind of shiny object syndrome. So I do believe you need to, as business owners, you need to have a basic understanding of how this works, of how to shape the world with it. If you are tech savvy, if you like get absolute joy being in front of a screen and on a computer, let me ask in the chat, yes or no, do you get absolute joy being on a computer and building tech things? Yes or no? You saw a hell no. Okay, I saw a yes. And I saw the yes from Matthew, who's the guy that said he's building his CRM. Look, if that's something that is in your skill set, go for it. But 99% of school owners, should you be trying to build a CRM? I don't think you should. I don't think you should. Why? So you can save paying the current CRM company $199 when they've kind of already, and I'm going to say perfected in quotes because we all know there's no CRM out there that is perfect, right? All of them have their things. But it's like how many hours and time and energy goes into that? And how is that adding to the bottom line of sales and results? So for some of you, it's like, yeah, go for it. But I think this just always comes down to like knowing your strengths and knowing your weaknesses. It's so interesting. You know, you see in a lot of business partnerships, I personally know myself, I do not thrive in partnerships in businesses. I believe partners are for dancing. And I know other people that absolutely do thrive in those types of scenarios. I'm just not one of them. And that's important to know about yourself. What are your skills? Okay. So, end of a little bit of a rant here, but I just think it's important to know your skill sets. And it's like, if you know you're really, really great at these things and you're not really, really good at these things, I'd rather just focus on the things that I'm really great at and get even better at. And then, you know, a little bit of time on the things that I am not good at. All right. So let's talk about what AI will replace and should replace in your school. And some of you already have robots working in your school in the form of a vacuum. And I, you know, would be the first person in line to, you know, purchase a full-on robot, not just for my house, but also for my office for cleaning. I do think in, you know, the next 3 to 5 years, some of you will have full-on robots in your school cleaning it. And I bet they're going to clean it better than the 14-year-old that you're, paying part-time minimum wage. All right. So what will AI replace though? It's going to replace the leads slipping through the cracks, right? Especially late at night. It's going to replace your front desk missing calls. It's going to replace you having to manually pull data. It will replace game tapes, which is basically you sitting and listening to calls that your team does or that your enrollment process is. It's going to replace the massive amount of time that it takes doing SOPs and creating playbooks. It will replace role playing. It will replace the content creation starting from a blank page and just, really trying to guess and analyze your own data with paper and pen. So this is the stuff that it can already do. Okay. What it's not going to replace is the culture that your head instructor is building on the mat. It's not going to replace that, feeling of, I'll never forget when I got my first degree black belt in Taekwondo. I was 12 years old and it was a very, very, very difficult test. And I was, dripping in sweat. And I'll never forget that feeling of this crisp, brand new belt being wrapped around my body and how cool it literally it felt cold on my body because I was so hot, right? That's a moment of impact that AI is never going to replace. Okay. So there are things that it will, and there are things that it won't. And that's important when we get to the conversation around how to present this to your staff. So what should you be implementing in your school? Here we go. Number one, AI chatbots. Okay. I am a fan of utilizing AI chatbots only when you can't get to it. All right. So what I would recommend, if there are specific hours of the day, let's say 9 p.m. to 9 a.m., implementing an AI chatbot that can book appointments and sell trials for you. All right. I would always prefer a human being to do it, to make a connection, to build the relationship, because that's what business is in its most simplistic form. But we all get opt-ins in the middle of the night. And hopefully you've been leveraging automations for the last few years. It's pretty cool when you wake up in the morning and you see, there was somebody purchased a paid trial or somebody booked an appointment through an online calendar. That is pretty dope. But what you can't do is just say, the automation handled it or the AI chatbot handled it. I don't need to pick up the phone and call or reach back out. That still needs to happen. All right. So those are mistakes that I'm seeing is school owners leaning too heavy on the tech or too heavy on the automations, forgetting we are not a transactional industry. We are a relational industry. Okay. I honestly don't mind talking to AI in certain use cases. If I'm ordering a pizza, I don't care. If I'm trying to book music lessons for my 6-year-old, the most important person in my life, I want to talk to a human being. Okay. So you can't forget the relational aspect of it. Okay. So big fan of AI chatbots, but only when you can't get to it. All right. I'm going to stop the share here real quick just because somebody's drawing on my screen. Stop drawing on my screen. All right. Let's go back. Boom. All right. Number 2, lead automation. This is something that I just think as a marketer, because I'm in it, I always get surprised that so many schools have not set this up to where when somebody requests information, they are automatically getting a text and email with it. What I want to reiterate is what I said earlier. Is it just some basic message that sounds like it could be any other martial arts school? Or are you being intentional about the messaging and how it represents the unique aspect of your school? And if you haven't gone in and audited your automations in a while, highly recommend you do that. And you probably have automations for your kids' classes, your adult classes, your summer camp, your after school. It's time consuming in the beginning. Now you can use ChatGPT to help, right? Not start from a blank page, but it should be edited in your voice, or you can build custom GPTs, which we'll talk about. But you'd be so surprised how many schools still don't have automation set up. And I'm not just talking on the prospecting side, also on the new student side. So when they become a new student, do you have something that is consistently reaching out on a weekly basis that helps them through that customer journey? Okay. So guys, this is super basic, but again, we see so many schools that don't even have this set up. I mean, there's schools that don't even have a CRM and they're charging people through the Square, app in their school, and they're just putting their names on spreadsheets. Okay. Number 3, voice AI for inbound calling. So we had a client basically beg us for this. And if this was about a year ago, I would have said like, it's still got that awkward pause. And 11 Labs is basically the company that almost all of these different platforms use for building voice AI. And what's just so wild now is that you can actually give the voice AI a like cultural background or a certain kind of like twang if maybe you're in the southern states, and it will actually build in uhs and ums because that's how most human beings speak when they're on the phone. I'll never forget, I had a tenant reach out 5 o'clock in the morning, air conditioning isn't working. I'm like, all right, well, let me call an emergency AC company. And let me tell you, like at first I wasn't even like, it was so good. You could tell, but it was so good. And by the end of the conversation, I was completely satisfied with how the AI handled the account and basically took all of my information and said, this is an emergency at 7 a.m. When the texts come in, you are the first one. They will be en route and they will call you when they're on their way. Like it was phenomenal. Okay. So it is getting so much better than it was a year ago. And I always say this, like AI is as bad as it's ever going to be today. Tomorrow it's going to get better and it's going to get better as well. So we had a client that really just hated answering the phone in the morning. His team didn't come in until like 12 or 1, and he was responsible. The owner was responsible for answering the phone. And he was like, can you just set it up so that if we get an inbound call that the AI takes it and can book the appointment? And I said, absolutely, sure. But you're going to be a guinea pig. And he's absolutely loved it so far. I think there's certain personalities and temperaments that are not going to be okay with that. And that's okay as well, right? I don't think this gets talked enough about, the personality, characteristics, your temperament as an entrepreneur and how that plays a role into your success or lack of success. And I think just some people don't have the right temperament for utilizing something like this, because is it going to be perfect? No, it might make mistakes. But my argument for that is if you hired a brand new program director or front desk girl or guy, are they going to make mistakes when they're on the phone? Of course they are, right? You have to train it. So in the beginning, it might be a little bit rough, but you got to train it. Okay. Number 4, this is probably one of my absolute favorite use cases that I feel like every martial arts school should have. And that is basically a QA bot, a quality assurance bot. So I want you to imagine every single prospecting call that comes in. After the call is done, the transcription gets ran through AI, compared to a rubric that you train it on, and then gets a score out of 100 on how well that call went, and then gives feedback. These are the things you did well. These are the areas of improvement. You missed this script. You forgot to say this thing. This is huge, especially if you have as the owner have delegated this to somebody else. Do you guys know that there are entire departments in companies for QA? That's all they do. That's why when you call a company, it says like, we're calling on a recorded line for quality assurance purposes, because there's literally people whose sole job is to sit there and listen to the call. That is incredibly time consuming. And let me ask you, when was the last time, if you do delegate calling to a program director and instructor, that you actually sat there and listened to the call? Most of us just don't have the time, energy, capacity, or want. So imagine after every single call, that coaching is happening. Huge, 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 especially with new hires. Okay. Number 5, same concept, but for your enrollments. So whatever your enrollment process is, right? We follow Maya's 4-step enrollment process, and being able to take the recording of the enrollment conference, dump it into the AI, and then same thing, it gives you feedback based off of the SOP or playbook that you trained it on. This one out of all of them requires the biggest habit change, because in order to get the recording, what do you have to do? You got to record the enrollment conference, right? So I think a lot of schools do have cameras up already in their schools. Some have, where it actually listens. Others don't. Sometimes, I see schools that have like signs up that says like you are being recorded. There's certain, states where you absolutely have to say that you are recording or calling on a recording line for the phone calls. But all you got to do is use this bad boy. All of us have some form of a recording app on it. And then you could take it, dump it into the Google Drive, the AI gets triggered, and now you have an AI sales coach for every single enrollment. This is really great, just one, to get feedback if you are the one doing it, but also for your team to have an AI sales coach. It's like, how do we get better? We get better at role play and we get better at watching game tape. And what do I mean by game tape? It's what the football teams do on after the game. They got a game on Saturday, then on Sunday, they're watching the game tape. Okay. Number 6, custom GPTs. This has been around a minute and it's still very, surprising to me how many schools don't have this set up because it's actually pretty simple. I love 3 different custom GPTs and think all of you should consider implementing them. You could literally go to ChatGPT and just ask ChatGPT, can you help me set up a custom GPT for my board of advisors or for my SOPs or for my content? And it'll walk you through the steps. It's like Inception, using AI to get more AI. All right. But Board of Advisors GPT, basically, who do you want to get advice from? Mine, I've got Elon, I've got Alex Hormozy, Layla Hormozy, I've got Gino Wickman, the guy that made EOS. If I have a problem, I can go to my Board of Advisors and ask them for feedback. I've got a lawyer, I've got an HR specialist. And guys, this is one of the simplest things to set up. All you need is a paid $20 a month ChatGPT plan, okay? For SOPs and playbooks, same thing. So if you have SOPs and playbooks documented, you could upload them into your custom GPT and utilize it to ask questions. All right. Chris Murphy, absolutely. I'll just send you an invoice via Venmo for $5. Okay. And then content and copy that sounds like you. So I've put a piece of content out every single day for the last 6 years, 7 years in my Facebook group, Monday to Friday. And that's a lot of content. You're talking thousands of pieces of content, right? And I keep it all on a Word document. I eventually had to separate it into multiple Word documents because it got so big and the load time was taking forever. But if you have been writing content, you can upload that into the custom GPT so that it starts to sound more like you, all right? I do this, but I still don't copy and paste what it says. It's like, okay, yeah, that's Chris-ish. But let me make it fully me. All right. So these are 3 things that really, it doesn't take a lot of time, not a lot of effort, not a lot of energy. All right. Number 7, the CEO dashboard. This isn't really AI. This is more utilizing automations and understanding how spreadsheets can talk to each other. I know the first time somebody showed me that I could take data from this spreadsheet and have it magically show up into another spreadsheet, like my mind was blown, right? And I think one of the biggest struggles is for most entrepreneurs, all of their data lives in their CRM. And I am not a big fan of solely relying on the CRM. I am a much bigger fan of taking that data out of the CRM and putting it into what I call a CEO dashboard. But the problem is you typically have all of these tabs in spreadsheets. And I know some very, very, very successful multi-8, multi-9-figure business owners that literally run their business off of spreadsheets. Dan Martell, if you follow him right now, his opt-in is download my CEO dashboard. Guess what it is? It's a spreadsheet, right? But being able to have all of those tabs, maybe you have instructors implement or input information in a certain spreadsheet, and you have program directors input information in a certain spreadsheet, being able to pull them over with formulas into a dashboard where more than likely you as the CEO, your company's probably not big enough to have a CFO. So that CFO is you. You probably oversee finance and HR. So being able to build out a CEO dashboard where, to me, the most important numbers need to be the sales, need to be the marketing, it needs to be the finance, and then anything to do with HR, right? So we have built this CEO dashboard where, you can have people input information in other spreadsheets, but then it gets pulled into your CEO dashboard, all right? Number 8, really pumped about this one, the AI role play bot. I think often we look at AI as the one to do the work for us, right? Imagine, though, the AI acting as a parent or acting as a prospective adult student. Um, Role play. I think you either love it or you don't love it, but I don't think you can argue that it's something you shouldn't do. Every single school should be role playing, but it's time consuming. So if you think about the 5 most important conversations in your martial arts school, these are them: appointment setting, enrollments, renewals, upgrades, and cancellations. Those are the 5 most important conversations that are happening, hopefully on a daily basis, with the exception of the cancellations. Imagine having your team being able to call a phone number and then role play with the AI, where here I am, the program director, and I am talking to an AI parent trying to book the appointment, or trying to get them enrolled, or trying to get them renewed or upgrade, or saving a cancellation. This is a use case that I really haven't heard anybody talk about. We're typically looking at the AI to be us, right? I want you to handle the conversation for me. This flips it, and the AI is now the prospect or the student, so your team can practice and get reps in. All right. Last up, number 9. And this is what makes this an operating system. For all of these things to happen, they basically need to surface into one place. Okay. And that is just a communication hub. And there are a couple of options that you have for a communication hub. You have Slack, you have Discord, potentially could probably use Google if you're in that kind of workspace. We use Slack. And for anybody that has, I think, 3 or more staff members, please, if you are still operating on group text message, I'm saying this with the love of, with love, please stop. That's not mom and pop. That's mom and pop in my opinion. All right. I don't think it's a professional way to communicate with your team. And I don't know that many people that actually enjoy being on group text. I am one of them. So don't put me on a group text. All right. Or at least ask before you put me on a group text. Okay. But having this communication hub, we recommend utilizing Slack, is where all of these different softwares can plug into. Why? Because Slack has a lot of API capabilities. API is just the way that you get one software to talk to another software. And we're starting to see, because of AI, software is opening up API capabilities so you can connect. So this is kind of the nervous system of the whole operation, where, okay, this is where the QA bot goes. This is where the automations flow through. This is where you can get notified. All right. So this is the checklist here. Out of those 9, let me know which one excites you the most. Put the number in the chat. Is it the chat bot? Is it the quality assurance bot? Is it the custom GPTs? Is it the CEO dashboard? Is it the role play bot? Thank you, Rachel. Got the role play bot on there. Let me know. And if you're stuck between a couple, you can put that in. AI chat bot and voice AI. Got the AI role play bot. Anybody else? Come on, guys, play along. It's more fun this way. 2 or 9, lead automation and communication hub. Awesome. Yeah, those are super simple to set up. 4, 5, and 8. Beautiful. Number 7, the CEO dashboard lead. All right. Very cool. So this is what is capable right now. Literally right now, all of you could either learn how to do it, or, like I always say, in your business, you're always making one of 2 decisions. Am I going to spend my time, my energy, my effort, my sweat equity, or am I going to spend my money? And maybe the question is, man, I don't really want to do this. Who can do it for me? All right. This is a service offering that we are launching in GrowPro. We've already launched. We've already brought on a client with it. So if that's something that you want help with, that is something that we are now offering at GrowPro. Now, we're going to go a couple of minutes over. So if you have to jet, no worries. We're going to set out the recording today. But I get a lot of questions around, like, well, what about my team? My team is hesitant. They're worried it's going to replace them. And I think what's more likely is you would probably want a team member that is leveraging AI than that isn't, because it ultimately builds their capacity. Okay. What you are seeing with some big organizations, letting tens of thousands of people go. That is happening. But what you're more seeing now is that companies are just letting natural churn happen and they're not hiring because they're thinking like, oh, what used to take 3 people can now take 1 person with AI or 1 person that is overseeing AI agents. Okay. And when I ask my, team, what fears do you have? Some of them is just like, I'm worried. I literally had somebody quit because they were worried AI was going to take their job. And I had to like walk them off the ledge. Okay. But you should address the fear directly. And with AI coming in, is it going to take jobs? Yes, but it's going to create other ones. But ultimately, it's going to build their capacity to become more valuable, right? And Jim Rohn has always said, you don't get paid by the hour, you get paid by the value that you bring to the hour. And if you can do more in that hour, you are more valuable to the company. All right. So address the fear and also build it with them. This is stuff that we've done trainings on internally. All right, guys, everybody open up your laptops. Let's go to ChatGPT. Let's ideate in there and make innovation part of your culture. Okay. Famous quote by Peter Drucker: all you need is innovation and marketing. Kind of true. And then also just understanding your role as the owner that, you need to have a base understanding of this. All right. I do believe we are, in that compounding advantage error right now. And that there are going to be some schools that lean into this. There are going to be some schools that don't. And the ones that lean into it, they're going to be able to have faster lead follow-up. They're going to be able to train their team better. They're going to have access to better and cleaner data. I just don't want you to miss out on being able to buy back your time with some of these things that we talked about so that you truly can focus on the things that you love. All right. If you are interested in our AIOS program, AI operating system, this is completely custom and it's not cheap. There's a one-time payment of $3,000, but it's because we're setting up all of these things. We're setting up your chatbot, your lead automation. We are setting up voice AI, the quality assurance bot, the AI sales coaching bot. We set up 3 custom GPTs. We build your CEO dashboard. You get access to the AI role play bot, and we build your communication hub. Okay. So it's $3,000 upfront fee, $199 per month after that. And this is very, very hands-on. I am involved in this entire process right now because it is newer to our service offerings at GrowPro, but it is completely custom. All right. So if that is interesting to you, look how great I am at pitching. I don't even have a link to drop. So I'll get that here in a second for you. Because I never pitch on these things, guys. I always just like want to give value and educate. But Ms. Alves, can you explain more about custom GPTs, please? Yeah, for sure. What any specific question around it, or you want to just kind of give more examples, or?
I have no idea what that means. So basic info, please.
Yeah, awesome. Are you using ChatGPT at all?
Yes.
So in ChatGPT, there's a little button that you can press. You do have to be on the paid version. And on the left-hand side, you've got the GPTs. So how about I just show you? It's probably like just better, right, to see.
Okay.
So here we go. So I'm over here on the left-hand side. I've got my Explore GPTs. And then up here, so you got to click on Explore GPTs, you'll have the Create button. Okay. And then you can access whatever GPTs you've built inside of here. So you can see I've got my playbook GPT. I have my content GPT. I have my board of advisors. I actually created a GPT for the ATA because they have like a rule book that is this thick. And I was able to train the GPT on the tournament rule set. So if somebody has questions on it, they can just ask the question in there instead of like thumbing through hundreds and hundreds of pages in the rule set. But you just click the Create button. And you're going to give it a name. You're going to give it a description. You can give it a little bit logo here. And then you're going to give it instructions. So if I were you and you've never done this, I would just open a new chat inside of ChatGPT. I would use that crit strategy, which I told you guys, I have it saved right here. So I can just copy it and paste it in, and then I'm going to give it context. Like, hey, I want to create my very first custom GPT. I want to create a custom GPT with all of my playbooks inside, act as a world-class custom GPT creator, ask me any questions, task, give me the instructions that I need to give the custom GPT to build it. And then it's going to spit that out. It might ask questions, so it has more context. And it's literally just fill in the blank, and then you give it a knowledge base. So you're going to upload the files of your playbooks, right? So we have a client, Dominion MMA, that we're building this out, and she sent over a document called Dominion Brain. And it literally, I mean, it's probably a couple hundred pages, has every single process that they do in their company. So that's how you create it. Was that helpful? Good. Awesome. All right. How much ongoing updates and changes can we make to the AIOS as time goes on? Yeah. So basically the $3,000 fee is just the setup. Can take up to 90 days. So typically the build out is 30 days. The next 30 days is testing, and the last 30 days is refining. And then there's a $199 fee ongoing. That fee is if you need any changes or updates or want to add something new to it. But it also includes a monthly AI advisory coaching call that I will be running, where we get together and we basically do what we did here and talk about, okay, what all is coming out, what is new, what is shiny object, what are things that you should consider. Okay. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question, Zach. Any other questions? It doesn't have to be on our program, but just anything that we went over today. Like I said, I wasn't going to get too much in the weeds of all of the different, AIs you can be using and all of the new things that are coming out. But does anybody have any questions on anything? Okay. This is, as the visionary of my company, part of my role is constantly thinking about the future. And sometimes I just have to tell myself, Cris, be where your feet are at and just be in this present moment. But I think all entrepreneurs can kind of relate with constantly thinking about the future and living in that future. And for us, we are pivoting from solely being a social media marketing agency to being an AI and tech advisory company, because that's where this industry is ultimately heading. And we know that most business owners, right? You've got the Zach Haydens on here, you've got the Matthews on here, like they love this kind of stuff and they want to spend, I know Jen's husband Vito has been vibe coding until 4 o'clock in the morning. Like some people want that. And that's great. That's awesome. If that's like your 7 a.m., excuse me, if that's your jam and that lights you up, awesome. But for, 99% of martial arts school owners and just small business owners in general, it's just not where their time, energy, and effort and focus should go. So sometimes the better question is who, not how. Okay. Mr. Shaw, a lot of this way bigger than I am, but good notes for thought for sure. Yeah. I think like the custom GPTs, the CEO dashboard, the automations, those are all very basic things that regardless if you have 50 students or 500 students, you should consider implementing. Will this be available as a replay? Absolutely. And we'll send the slides over. That'll go out to you before the end of the day because we got sense of urgency over here. All right. Any other questions? Appreciate you guys that had your cameras on as well. And if you have questions, if you want to jam out on anything, I will share the most professional email in the world, midgettwister@gmail.com. Don't hesitate to reach out. Happy to hop on a call with you. If you have more questions about AIOS, AI operating system, and even just to see if you're a good fit. I do think the ideal client for this is somebody that has a team. Like if you don't have a team, then probably not the next best step. Let's focus on getting the automations out there. Let's make sure we have AI chatbots set up. But for those of you with a team, I think that, it's a smart next step to consider. All right. Appreciate all of you. Mr. Fasaro, nice to see you, sir. Hope everybody has a great day. Holler if you need me. See ya.